Code Keepers, we're in for a banger today. Look, we're going to align, we're going to thrive, and we're going to know the reason why. If you notice that I did align, thrive, and know, that's ATK. We got ATK Innovations on the code today. You know, our code is empowerment. We talk about all things empowerment with a passion for Black empowerment. So today, we have Kimberly from ATK Innovations on the chat. Look, tell us about what ATK is doing, how you came up with the acronym, and how this relates to empowerment. Let's just jump right into it.
Right. Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. ATK Innovations came from my website, All Things Kimberly, and I just kind of wanted something that would empower people. So we believe that if you align your vision and you thrive in your purpose, then you'll know who you are. And with those three things inclusively, you'll be on your path to discovering your purpose.
All right. How did you discover your purpose?
Trial and error. So I think that we all discover our purpose by way of just trying different things. And in trying different things, some things work, some things don't. And you may be on one path, but then God will put you on another path, you know, and you think it's an accident, but God is strategic. You know, he's very strategic in what he does. So I started out wanting to be a nurse and do patient care and all this stuff. And I just couldn't handle it because I'm a very empathetic person. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do this. So I actually went over to the other side. So I've been in healthcare for over 24 years on the administrative side.
All right, that's cool. So you just brought up God, and whether the Code Keepers look at God as being a divine being, the supreme being, or good, orderly direction, it's so important. It's so crucial. It's foundational in our movements. You have your own podcast. How do you bring good, orderly direction or the almighty supreme being into your conversations?
Well, my podcast is basically a platform where I uplift Jesus. I'm not, cramming it down your throat, but I am a believer. So therefore, anything I do is going to resonate him. I pray before my podcast episodes because I don't want people to hear me or my guests. I want them to hear what God wants them to hear. So I want him to direct the conversation because he knows what people need. We don't know that. He's all knowing. So I make sure that I uplift him, and most of my guests are believers. It just kind of happens that way. But, I deal with all type of people, but, we all need each other regardless of our religion. So I do try to make sure that I am representing him in everything that I do because people need that.
Intriguing. So you really have a faith-led, a Bible-based, Jesus-first type approach to empowerment. Cool. Well, that gives you a great foundation. Mm-hmm. I love that. Let's talk about empowerment because somehow we were connected. And if I remember correctly, you said that our focus on empowerment with our passion for Black empowerment was really connected with your interest in making sure that people are even more empowered before and after they met you than before.
Yeah.
So what is it about empowerment that's so special that you and I are both doing shows about it?
I think empowerment is related to so many things in life. People need to be empowered mentally, physically, spiritually, professionally, personally. In every area of your life, you need to be empowered, and different things empower us. So that's just a huge scope when you talk about empowerment. It's not directed to one specific thing.
That's one of the challenges that we've had on our show and in our movement. Our show is called Get on Code. So you're on the Get on Code show, and our code is empowerment. So everything you should do should empower you. Everything you eat should empower. And I'm working on that. I'm still a little
Listen, you and I both.
Okay. Well, you wear yours well. I don't necessarily wear mine as well.
Well, I thank you.
Everything that I consume, reading, TV, scrolling on the internet, that should empower you.
It should.
You know what I'm saying? Your activities, your fun activities, your leisure activities, they should empower you.
They should.
And your religious faith, spiritual walk should empower you. And so that's our code. Get on code.
Mm-hmm.
One of the challenges that we've had recently, and that is one of our long-term guests who used to pop on our show a lot. So salute to him. That was Minister Zumbi Shawala. He's a metaphysics minister, a minister of metaphysics. And he said, well, Seko, we need to define the code, because the code can mean different things to different people. And the unfortunate part is, while that's a good thing, when we're all on one accord, it can be even better. So this year, 2025, we've really said, hey, we're going to define our code as we move along. And the interesting thing is, we've realized that guests like yourself, who bring their plethora of experience and the things that they're doing, are going to help us better define the code of empowerment. So if you had to siphon down a really specific definition of the empowerment that your platform provides, what would that be?
Healing. I would say healing. I wrote a book, Sever the Ties, which basically just talks about different things that people go through or may have experienced that prevents them from reaching their God-ordained destiny. And when I originally set out writing my book, it actually was going to be about relationships. And, God just totally did a complete turn, and it just started taking on a whole nother form of itself. And then I ended up just talking about different things that I've gone through in the different areas of my life, and I was like, man, in doing that, I discussed, several things that I never even told anyone, just writing. I didn't even realize that I had suppressed, some of those emotions, some of those feelings, some of those experiences. And while it was healing to me writing it, my purpose is I wanted it to be healing to others when they read it, because I want them to be healed through the things that they've gone through as well. And so my platform, basically, the foundation is trauma recovery, getting over those traumas so that we can be our best self and reach our destiny, because you can't reach your destiny if you're being bogged down by, trauma, obstacles, all these different things, that the enemy uses to stifle us and to keep us stuck. So that was one of my biggest passions, is just helping people just to be aware, even of the different types of trauma, because people look at trauma as this, oh my God, devastating big thing. Trauma can be something as simple as a person's tone when they speak to you, how a person speaks to you, little things, so it doesn't always have to be a huge thing, but it can affect you hugely. So that's a difference.
Ooh, I think that's the gem. It doesn't have to be a huge thing, but it can affect you in a huge way. That's enlightening there. So we have your book up on the screen right now. So for the ties. So when I heard Sever the Ties, I thought about that. There's a song, it might be a praise and worship, maybe a gospel song. It talks about
I know what you're talking about.
The tie.
Okay.
The tie that binds. Yeah. It has something to do with the tie that binds. And I thought to myself, okay, if you're severing ties, the interesting thing is, we look at the word religion. Religion means, re is to do something over and over, and religion means to latch yourself onto something. So too often, I think we tie ourselves to the wrong things.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so if we're severing the ties, that brings about the healing that you're talking about. I love that. I love that. As we start moving towards higher level of empowerment, what are some of the things that you found in your work, in the writing of your book, and I guess I can call it your ministry, on your podcast? What are some of the things that you've learned that people tie themselves to that they shouldn't?
Hurt. That's one of the biggest things that I've seen. I've had a lot of guests who, maybe have been molested, maybe have been raped. And that's one of my stories. I was sexually assaulted, and I speak about that when I do my speaking, and just family things, things that we've gone through in our family, like generational stuff. all those things people seem to really tie themselves to.
How did you heal from your personal experience with trauma? You talked about being assaulted.
It took some time. My actually getting saved and having a relationship with God is what actually helped me, because it was a really hard thing to do, because not only was I assaulted, it was someone that I knew. So not only was I, being assaulted physically, emotionally, and mentally, a person that I trusted, had damaged my trust. So like, I just felt like it was like a double-edged thing, like a two-edged sword, where I felt like, well, man, like, how can they do that? Like, it kind of had me stuck for a while, and it took a while for me to get through it. But, with building my relationship with God and prayer, and just, diving into the Bible and reading my word, and, different other things, reading other books. I love, reading. I listen to podcasts. You'd be surprised what you would hear sometimes in listening to a podcast and a person. You can learn so much.
Yeah, you definitely can learn so much. And I think it's admirable, and it's impressionable, and it's definitely uplifting what we're doing with our platforms.
Yeah.
Definitely. What are some of the resources out there that you've been able to lead people towards when they're dealing with that type of trauma?
I would say the Bible. I know I don't want to be that person, but like it really person. Talks. I know.
You're that person. That's right. Cool. You're that person.
But it really helps me, because it talks so much about healing. It talks so much about so many people in the Bible who went through, horrific things, but God ultimately used it to push them into their purpose. When you think about Joseph, like, that's one of my favorite stories in the Bible. His own brothers, sold him into slavery. They were jealous of his gift, jealous because his father, favored him. And they just tried to do all these things to stop him, to kill him. But what they did was basically place him in position to fulfill his purpose. And there are numerous stories of that in the Bible. David, he messed up, but he was, somebody that really, God favored, and God used him mightily. I just like those stories really give me faith that no matter what, God has my back. You know what I'm saying? Romans 8:28, all things work together. The good things, the bad things, ultimately they're going to work together for my good.
That's interesting. I was thinking about one of our Get On Code shows. I think Minister Zumbi was with me. Mm-hmm. So my father used to be my father was a minister.
Okay.
And I remember that he would talk to me in different ways than he would talk to his congregants.
Okay.
Right. And so one of the things that he told me was that all the metaphysical, metaphorical stories that you're going to find in the Bible are about the person in the Bible, but it's also about you. It's also about you. So when we're talking about Joseph, and you're going to go be betrayed by people that people that you consider family are going to turn their backs on you. They're going to make bad decisions that they think are right.
Yeah.
But may be detrimental to you. Mm-hmm. Right? And opportunities are going to keep coming at you. And some of the opportunities, like that wife, you got to say, no, I'm not taking that opportunity. Right? And yeah, I mean, she's probably a baddie. I don't know.
Oh, God, but hilarious.
If you take the right opportunities, the right opportunities will lead you to a freedom out of whatever your situation is. So he said that was the story, and that's your story. That's the story that you can use in your life. And it even got controversial, because he told me, like, every year, hey, Easter is about you. There's something in your life that's going to die. There's something in your life that's going to die. There's something in your life that's going to die. But if you follow the right path, you and whatever that thing is will be reborn in a more glorious form. During Christmas, hey, this story is about you. It's about me? This story is about you. Yeah, he said there's something about you that's coming into the world. And it's coming into the world in a way that is not glorious. It's not championed. From far away, they'll be like, oh man, this is great. Yes, let's clap. Let's bring gifts. Yeah. But the people that are really, really close to you, they're not going to even notice it. But later on in life, that small thing that developed in you at that time is going to bring you to a point where you can do something great. That's like, oh, wow.
Wow.
So I said, so the crucifixion, that's about me too now. So that's the way my father would talk to me. You know, he would talk to the other congregants that way.
Yeah.
But that's the way he would talk to me. So I think it's intriguing because I'm not the most churchy person.
Yeah.
All right. So, you know, you're that person. You know, you're giving the Bible, you're giving the passage and the number, and I'm like, it's somewhere in there.
No,
it's somewhere in the book. But I think the great thing about that is we can agree that reading that canonized book, and you know, people might disagree on the canonization process and all the, I would say, the evil things that happen with that process, but the wisdom in that book.
Yeah.
You know, whenever you ever find a book of wisdom, and you know, my father also taught me that all wisdom is not contained in one book, and there's wisdom in other iterations.
Yeah.
Right. But the great thing is having something that you can always refer back to is so important for empowerment. And what I love about what you're doing with your show is you constantly have a new episode where people who are going through trauma, for people who are trying to find themselves, for people who are searching for higher meaning, where people who are looking to let their voice be heard, they have something to refer back to. That's, hey, sister, you walking in your purpose. I appreciate that. Salute that.
Thank you. I receive that.
What's one of the biggest lessons you've learned from your platform?
I would say that seasons change. That's kind of one of the biggest lessons I've learned. You know, we all have good seasons. We all have bad seasons. And, you know, it fluctuates through life. But so, you know, if you're going through a bad season, guess what? It's got to change eventually because seasons change. Can't stay the same. And vice versa. If you have a good season, you know, it's going to happen. It's going to come, you know. You know, some people say if either you're going into a storm, in the middle of a storm, or just getting out of a storm. You know, that's just life. You know what I'm saying? So you just got to learn to appreciate the good seasons and, you know, make sure that you're building your faith and building your foundation so that when the bad seasons come, you're equipped to fight because they can take you out. If you're not equipped, you know, some bad seasons, people can't handle it, you know, and you have to be equipped for those.
And that's what I think your platform and our platforms that are focused on empowerment can do. You know, I think and you can probably quote where it is. I can't. It says something about a full armor of good orderly direction, right?
Yeah, put on the full armor. That was actually one of the scriptures my pastor just spoke on Sunday.
Okay. Yeah, but that full armor.
Listen.
That idea that you're prepared for a battle, because you're going to have a battle.
You're going to have a battle.
There's going to be a battle. You know, one of the things that my father also taught me, and we also learned as we studied some of the Hebrew text, is that, you know, the concept or the word Satan means hindrance. So, and if everything is created by the Almighty, and the Almighty has created or allowed for the creation of hindrances in your life, a hindrance is something you're supposed to overcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're designed to be overcomers.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? We're designed, we're written, drawn, etched to overcome stuff, but we got to overcome some stuff. So there's going to be those hindrances. And to think, I'm thankful for the good and the bad. That's a level of maturity, spiritual maturity, emotional maturity, conscious maturity that I really think that our messages on empowerment can help people understand that there's going to be some BS that you're going to have to deal with. But the BS was there on purpose and you were already developed to overcome the BS.
You are.
Right. So I love what you're doing, and I want to say it again. I love what you're doing. What's one of the most challenging stories you've heard on your show? Because I want people to check your show out.
Oh, God, so many. I'm trying to think which one really got to me.
Well, hey,
I had
let's talk about a few of them.
Okay, so one of my guests, I actually knew her. I used to work at a high school for several years, and got pretty close with, like, a lot of the students there. Like, I really grew to care about them and just like understand how our young people really need, mentors and people in their lives, because you never know what they're going through. And so she would come, to the office and speak to me, every day. And I would, talk to a lot of them and just, cut up with them, laugh with them, joke with them. But when she told me years later, I mean like years later, she was on my podcast and talked about how she was molested by her cousin. And I'm just like, I would have never known that. Like, you always were just so joyful. Like, she just never seemed down, never seemed like anything. But I'm just like, wow. Like, you know how they say the saying, don't look like what you've been through? She literally did not look like what she was going through. And I was just like, man, that's crazy how you can, be in contact with a person and just be totally oblivious to what they're going through. Like, you have no clue. None. And I was just like, man, like, you were going through all that, like, just thinking about, especially our young people today, the things that they have to go through. And, if they don't have anybody that they can confide in, or have anybody that they can go to for help, or even just to talk to about it, like, what do you do with that? I'm just like kind of thinking, and I'm just like, man, that's tough, you know? So that was one of them that kind of got to me. And what's another one that I would say? I had another guest who, was it her? I don't want to misquote it. I can't remember exactly, but she had a baby by, I want to say, a step brother or cousin or somebody that
Mm.
was molesting her, and she had the baby, and I'm just like, I'm thinking, how do you do that? How do you take something that was birthed out of evil, not the person that birthed it, but the act, the heinous act, and then can love, like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. And that's one of the things that I'm conflicted with, because, I don't believe in abortion. I, however, do believe it is your right to get, have one if that's what you choose to do. But, the commandments say thou shalt not kill, which you are killing. But then what if it's a situation where you were raped, or what if it's you gotta then what's, what I'm saying? Like, then how do you decide? Like, and I guess, ultimately, God's word is the ultimate decision. You're supposed to go by that. So in doing that, I just don't know if I don't know if I'm there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was just like totally astonished at that. To me, like, that's huge. I just don't know.
And I don't know if we're supposed to know everything.
Yeah.
But I know that we can be there for people. I
Yeah.
know that we can show that we're going to be there for people.
Yeah.
And I think, life has a way, God has a way, the universe has a way, however you want to look at it, of working it out.
Yeah. True.
I'm glad to know that you're really allowing a space for people who are struggling to express themselves in a safe, comfortable manner, and then allowing that to be shared with the world.
Absolutely.
I think one of the good things about podcasts or shows in general is we've kind of normalized people being transparent.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's really helping us. But I kind of wonder, because sometimes you say, hey, look, the kids nowadays, they can't take nothing. It's like they're fragile.
Yeah.
And they're growing up in a transparent world, and they're fragile. While those of us who are older grew up in a less transparent world.
Yeah.
And there's a level of resilience
Yep.
that I worry is missing from, some of the
I
newer
agree.
generations. It's scary.
I agree. It is
What was it like writing a book?
hard. I started writing my book in like 2008, 9, and I didn't finish it until COVID. Like, I kept, picking it up, putting it down, picking it up, putting it down. And what's ironic is I kept hearing my title. Like whenever I would go periods of time where I wasn't writing, I would hear somebody say sever the ties, and I'm like, okay, God, I'm gonna be obedient. I'm gonna get back on it, and I would start writing. I just would I feel like I was like having writer's block, and I feel like it's because I wasn't ready to share the things that God wanted me to share, because I thought it was going to be about one thing. But he was, basically taking me through a healing process and, a transformation spiritually, where it ended up being, about something else. And it just wasn't the time. Maybe he gave me the idea, but it wasn't the time. Everything happens in God's timing. So I felt like it actually did get birth when it was supposed to get birth, and it just was something totally different than what I expected. But it was what was needed for me, and my hope was that it was what was needed for others as well.
I think that's important that we put down in writing our thoughts.
Yeah.
The things we've learned.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at our ancestry, they wrote cultures that were cultures that wrote things down. And some of those writings are still impacting us today.
That's right.
So on your show, on your podcast, on your platform, All Things Kimberly, people can do a discovery call. So
yes.
Tell me what that's all about.
So in doing my speaking and just talking about, trauma recovery and things like that, and just realizing the different things that keep people bound, they're unable to reach their purpose. So I began, going through the process of getting certified as a certified coach, which I'm nearing the end, and I just have to take my certification. I realized I wanted to help people to discover their purpose. Telling you to do, what has God called you to do? What has he put you on this earth to do? The thing that he put inside of you. And in my speaking and my platform, I am, walking into mine. So I wanted to be the person to help people walk into theirs. So in starting my, ATK, it definitely encompasses and houses everything: my book, my podcast, my speaking platform. But I'm also incorporating my coaching program, where I help people to discover their purpose.
All right, talk about that. What's the coaching?
It's in the works. So the program is not completely out. Haven't outrolled it actually, but it will be coming soon. And I'm just, kind of getting all the things together now, as far as, the program, all that stuff, the actual, packages and everything that people can get. And so I'm really excited about that. And that's going to probably be enrolled probably the middle of 2025. Is going to be out, and I'm going to, be able to help people to discover their purpose and kind of help them to realize that thing that God has put inside of them that he's called them to do.
I'm loving it. So Code Keepers, we all need to discover our purpose. We all need to discover what we were designed to do, because all of us have a talent.
Yes.
All of us have. One of the Code Keepers put it this way. She said that you're the cure to somebody's cancer.
Ooh, I love it.
Yeah, so we got to find out what we're the cure for.
I love it.
Right. Any parting words, Kim?
What are my parting words? I just want people to be encouraged and have faith, because faith is the foundational thing that we need. Build on your faith and find your purpose. When you find your purpose, you're going to be powerful.
That's intriguing. You just mentioned two of the Kwanzaa principles, the faith and purpose.
Listen,
my family got involved in that in 1973, and it's so important to me that, when I deal with Nia, and when I deal with, let me see, purpose is Nia, Imani is faith. Those two things are just so central. If you find your purpose, and if you have the faith that you can find your purpose, and when you find your purpose, if you have the faith to walk in your purpose, so hey, we just going back and forth. Faith, purpose, faith, right?
Gotta have them, like salt and pepper, peanut butter and jelly, Kool-Aid and sugar, hamburger. But yeah.
So Code Keepers, we've been hanging out with Kimberly from Kimberly Speaking Podcast. I just showed a little bit of the podcast on the screen. You definitely want to go to your Apple store or wherever you get your podcasts and get a chance.
Spotify.
Yeah.
Pandora, YouTube.
Pandora. Yeah, check out the Kimberly Speaking Podcast. It's in the area of education because you're going to adducere. The word education comes from adducere, which means to bring out the best.
Okay.
And we got to bring out the best in us, all right?
Absolutely.
So code keepers, remember, our code is empowerment. We tell you to learn the code, teach the code, become the code, exemplify the code, and share the code. Let's get on code.
Okay.
Peace.
Thank you.
All right. That was